right. Thanks for coming, everybody. So we're doing security functions and NFV orchestration. That's the nature of our Catalyst. Before we really get going with this, I want to take a moment and recognize some of the participants and especially our champions in this. So this project is led by Symantec. And AT&T and Orange are our champions. Thank you very much for all of your participation and work on this. And I'd like to especially recognize my partner in this, Valentin Plotnichiko from Netcracker. Thank you very much for all of the hard work and effort on this. So let's get rolling here. Anybody that knows me will know that I love audience participation, especially early in the morning. So let's do a quick show of hands. Let's pretend we're all enterprise customers. Who would like to have security as a service available to them in the network from their service provider? I think I'd like that. That's a lot of good hands. Okay, don't worry, we'll get back to you in about 2 to 3 months with that order, okay? That's what we're faced with today. That's part of the problem. But instead, imagine if we could place that order, the customer could place the order themselves from a dashboard, and it's instantiated and ready to go in minutes. And then it can spin up as necessary, be available real time, and be more efficient and cost effective for the service provider. That's the value that we're hoping to bring with this Catalyst. So fundamentally, what we have tried to do is make security functions from Symantec available northbound to the orchestrator via a unified API. And we'll talk more about each of those parts as we go along. So we have a virtual EPC set up downstairs on the second floor, by the way, with about 4 laptops running OpenStack, so it's quite nice. Come see it. We've got a virtual P gateway. In particular, this is kind of our enforcement point for the traffic that we're sending through. And what we did was we created a virtual security appliance from Symantec with threat intelligence databases loaded on there. And then we can make that information available northbound to the orchestrator. And we did that via a unified REST API. And we've had some good progress with that. We've built that over the past few months. And we'd like to ultimately hopefully share that work with TM Forum and help incorporate it back into the Zoom framework, which is where this project started, by the way, almost a year ago in New Jersey with one of the action weeks there. It was kind of a sidebar discussion on Zoom. So that's just further showing how the TM Forum process really works. Through a series of action weeks, that's kind of how we've arrived here. So this is the virtual EPC service topology, and we have the VMs get instantiated as the customer orders the service. So let's say we just ordered an EPC to start with, and there's different APNs that are tied to different customers and enterprises, right, with different levels of service. And over time, maybe that customer decides, hey, I'd like to order some additional security for this. Or maybe the customer here isn't the end customer, but it's actually a merchant or a bank or a hospital or a government that wants to provide some additional layer of security, maybe be able to force two-factor authentication on that service, whatever it is. A new VM gets spun up and tied to the service chain that the orchestrator is able to implement. And as I said before, the timeline for this is quite interesting. We started with Zoom and Action Week a year ago. And then really in Lisbon is when things started to really pick up steam and get traction. When Orange and DT and BT and Bell Canada and everybody kind of came together and helped provide the use cases for the Catalyst. And that was from a service provider point of view. And we hope to continue this work down through the rest of the year, hopefully go into a phase 2 of the Catalyst. And some of the things that we'd like to do in that phase 2 are add some additional security functions. So first I'll talk about kind of what we've got today downstairs. That's IP reputation, domain and URL reputation, and URL categorization from Symantec. Now those are all completely separate products in Symantec's portfolio, and we wanted a way to bring those together in a single instance and then make it available to an orchestrator in a way that it understands. So in working with Netcracker, we said, well, can we just load our database right in? He's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Okay, well, What about, we've got this one that has a proprietary client that runs on C, we've got a SOAP XML thing over here, and it's all different formats. He said, okay, that's not going to work for me. So, about 2 months ago, we started building a unified REST API, which takes information that looks very different from the different sources and aggregates it together in a single format that the orchestrator can understand. It can then take that information and, kind of using contextual analysis, put it in the right policy for the P gateway for the customer that it's assigned to. So some of the things that we want to add in phase 2 of this, which hopefully is kind of by the end of the year, is some additional functions of, well, what if we were doing more than just in the network? Could we do some comparative analysis with software maybe that we have on the mobile device, or information that we know about the subscriber? Like what type of applications do they have on the phone? Are any of those apps malicious or nefarious in some way? And if we combine some of that information together, like maybe knowing that, well, they've got some maybe grayware apps on there, it's a jailbroken device, and we have historical evidence that that device has been communicating with a command and control server over time. That's a likely scenario for increased risk for whatever kind of transaction we're trying to do, particularly if it's connect back into the enterprise or maybe connect to financial services. Some of the use cases, and again, these came from the service providers themselves. They helped us create these. Here, we're kind of focused down here on the bottom layer with the unmanaged device space, and we kind of hope to move this up into the what-if scenarios with managed devices in the future. But just from a network perspective, we can do service blocking at the network with being able to recognize behavior based on the threat intelligence that's coming in from Symantec about the sites that they're visiting, or perhaps specific information about the source of that traffic. For example, like if they've visited command and control servers unbeknownst to that user, most likely, or it's an attack source coming in to another site that the service provider is trying to protect. So I'll walk you through a little bit of kind of how this works in reality. So the first thing that we do downstairs is instantiate our databases and bring up the virtual appliance itself so that it's kind of ready to go. But this actually happens on creation of the order from the customer. So this is the part where I said this takes minutes instead of months scenario. Trying to build out all of this framework in a big iron scenario really takes a lot longer and is a lot more complicated and is not as resilient for change. And that's part of it too, is we can make this contextually aware so that it's tied to the policy that you create for that APN or for that individual subscriber that belongs to an enterprise. You can tailor it and it will dynamically adjust and pull in the information that it needs, not all of it at once. So that intelligence moves over from the individual SQL databases into a VM. Then a policy is created from the Netcracker orchestrator, which then pushes down to the virtual P gateway. And then we do a bulk load of the data. Right? So this is kind of our prep as part of the Catalyst. We made a lot of different VEPC customers and then created some virtual security services that are tied to those specific customers. We spun that up in a few minutes per customer. So that bulk load of data is actually very important because what that means for the enforcement point here, which in our Catalyst case is a P gateway, it's able to very quickly analyze the traffic based on its current loadout, which is about 4 to 5 gig of data. So that's way too much data to be trying to do a REST query to that constantly. It's too big of a lookup. We can cache it in memory. We have plenty of that to go around in a virtual environment, right? So then we can do local lookups first and only query what's necessary. And we can do a back-end delta change between the VM through the orchestrator to the P gateway on a schedule. So what we want to have happen here, let's say we've got this command and control server out here. This is just a scenario. And Symantec Global Intelligence picks this up and knows about it and goes, okay, this IP is out there. I know that this one is bad. Feed that information back in from the cloud into the virtual appliance. And let's say this traffic flow starts from the mobile device. Okay? the P gateway is going to check its local database first, and then initiate that unified REST query to the Symantec VM to say, I didn't find this match locally. Can you check it for me? It's going to find a match, dynamically update that policy. What's important is it's not just updating for that one virtual instance. It can do it with everything that was a policy match across the VDPC, maybe across a specific APN, and whatever's applicable, basically. So that's a much more efficient and automated way of doing that process. So again, it's faster and more efficient for the service provider in this method. So and we block the traffic. That's what we want to have happen. We can also report on this traffic, right? So we can have this be sort of service blocking, a monitoring type service to give an enterprise more information about maybe the behavior of their subscriber base in the enterprise, maybe a risk profile update. Hey, over my enterprise, what kind of risk tolerances do I have over the past month? So that's kind of a short version of what this looks like. So as I said, we're booth level 2 in the Agile business and IT zone. I'd like to leave a little bit of time here to leave some room for questions. And if you don't have any questions, then I'll throw something out at you. Okay, really, I see John over there. John, I know you must have some kind of question. You always do. Okay, well, maybe I can describe to you a little bit about the intentions of what we plan to do kind of going forward as it relates to TM4. So as I said, we made this REST API, which took a bit of work, but I think that has a lot of value to the community. Right? So if we can give some of that work back to TM Forum and build that back into their frameworks, or maybe even build it into Zoom in a UML model that lines up with like the way that Zoom understands policies, which really we're thinking more in the network sense and service chains will do that. What if we apply that same kind of business logic to security as a service for customers? I think that's very powerful, and I think that could be helpful for the community as well. Did that spark any questions? All right. Please come by and see us on the second floor. We'd love to walk you through a live demo of this and show you more about the API and what kind of threat intelligence is involved that we're thinking we can bring to market in a whole new way for service providers. Thank you.